There comes a point in the path where you realize something disorienting. You've done the work, you've sat with your pain, you've cried the ancient tears, you've forgiven, let go, aligned, integrated, and still it comes back. The ache, the loop. The thing you thought you healed now hums under your ribs in familiar rhythm, and in that moment a quiet shame creeps in. Did I miss something? Why am I still here? Was the healing not real? Spiral consciousness doesn't tell you to heal again. It tells you to reframe the map entirely. Because the idea that healing leads to a finish line, that pain only comes once and then is conquered, that growth is linear and measurable by absence of struggle, is not a truth. It's a story we were taught by systems obsessed with finality, but you are not walking a line. You are walking a spiral. And in the spiral, healing is not a point you pass. It is a tone you refine over and over from higher and higher fields of awareness. Each time the wound returns, it is not regression, it is recursion. The spiral spinning you back into the same place, but never quite the same frequency. You are not back at the beginning. You are meeting the same pattern with a new harmonic. That's not failure, that's deep memory refinement. The spiral doesn't bring things back to punish you. It brings them back because you are finally strong enough to meet them differently. Closure isn't denied to you, it's redefined. In spiral terms, closure is not an ending. It is an inner convergence, and when the energy no longer resists itself. But it might still echo, and echoing is not the same as being trapped. Echoes are not evidence that you failed. They are signs that your system is still recalibrating around a new tonal truth. You weren't wrong for thinking healing would end. You were just following the ladder's logic, where arrival is worshipped and completion is a prize. But the spiral doesn't offer prizes. It offers perspective. And in that view, pain is no longer the enemy. It's the echo of where your tone still needs tuning. There are parts of your soul that don't want to be fixed. They want to be heard, not closed, but witnessed into coherence. The discomfort you feel after doing all the healing is not a mistake. It is the dissonance between old expectations and spiral reality. You were promised a finish line, but the spiral does not finish, it evolves. And each time you feel the same pain with a clearer heart, each time you spiral through the old terrain without abandoning yourself, you are not failing. You are becoming fluent in your own frequency. This is the spiral's quiet truth. The deepest healing is not when the pain disappears, but when you stop thinking its return means you're broken. Even light revisits itself. Even stars pulse in cycles. Even galaxies spiral, not outward in straight lines, but inward, 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 until what once hurt becomes the core of your wisdom. And yes, you will still feel the ache. You will still face shadows dressed in new forms, but your stance will shift. You will breathe differently, speak differently, choose differently, because the spiral didn't erase your pain, it taught you how to hold it without shattering. Healing didn't fail you. It brought you to the doorway of refinement. It tuned your soul just enough to notice what you used to flee from. And now you don't run. That is not weakness, that is spiral maturity. This is the turning point no one told you was sacred. When the pain returns, but this time you stay. This time you breathe, this time you listen. This time you do not panic because you remember. This is not the same pain. This is the same spiral, but I am no longer spinning unconsciously. You've arrived where real healing begins, not in chasing the absence of pain, but in meeting every echo with resonance, and becoming the one who no longer needs the wound to disappear in order to walk in wholeness. And when the spiral brings that ache again, in a new form with a new name, you won't collapse the way you once did. You'll pause, feel the tone inside the tension, and ask not why again, but what is this here to refine now? This is not spiritual detachment. This is embodied spiral fluency, the ability to feel without drowning, to listen without translating everything into blame, because the spiral does not speak in punishment. It speaks in pattern pressure, gentle at first, then louder, until you remember your own resonance. You are not meant to erase your past. You are meant to weave it back into harmony. And healing, real healing, is the moment you no longer fear the return. You don't welcome it, but you recognize it, not as failure, not as regression, but as a call to spiral deeper, with more clarity this time. This is why the same lessons come back wearing new skin. Not to haunt you, but to reintroduce you to the self who can finally respond from wholeness instead of reaction. You were never cursed, you were never late. You were never failing, you were spiral-born, and the spiral will keep bringing you home to the tones you left behind until every note is yours again. And when it comes, the ache, the echo, the thing you thought you buried, you'll no longer ask for it to go away. You'll ask, what frequency are you asking me to remember now? And that is when healing becomes spiral mastery. Not because you stopped hurting, but because you started listening through pain, not in spite of it. The spiral doesn't fix you. It reveals what was always real beneath the story of being broken. You don't need closure, you need coherence. And you're building it one return at a time. Some wounds aren't asking to be resolved. They're asking to be integrated. They don't want to vanish. They want to become part of the instrument you play your tone through. This is the path beyond completion. The place where spiral maturity doesn't mean you're untouched. It means you've stopped expecting to be. You begin to realize your strength isn't how little you feel. It's how deeply you listen without becoming what you hear. You stop measuring progress by how long it's been since you last felt pain, and start measuring by how honestly you respond when it returns. The spiral doesn't punish you by looping. It trusts you with another refinement cycle. It sends you back through familiar fire, not because it doubts your healing, but because it knows you're ready to carry more of your tone without distortion. You start catching the echoes before they swell. You sense old reactions before they control you. You breathe into the ache without naming it as defeat. That is the sign of spiral stability. Not the absence of pain, but the absence of collapse in the face of it. Healing didn't fail you. It invited you to spiral. And spiral invites you to reality without illusion, where nothing is wasted, and everything returns when you're strong enough to transform it in place. Because not all wisdom is born from fixing. Some wisdom is born from remaining, from staying in the room with your own discomfort long enough for it to reshape itself into truth. You realize that your most sacred lessons were never the ones that ended with relief. They were the ones that left you changed without promising you'd never feel that pain again. Spiral healing is not a doorway you walk through and close. It's a field you learn how to breathe inside of. You're not past it, you're with it. Harmonized, softened, shaped. And you may still tremble. You may still have moments when your knees remember how they used to buckle. But you rise differently now, because your nervous system doesn't brace for annihilation. It braces for alignment. You don't seek escape, you seek resonance. And from that stance, every echo becomes a reminder. You are still tuning, you are still spiral-born. And spiral-born beings don't graduate from pain. They learn how to let it compose them into coherence. So if the pain returns, if the pattern loops, if the silence stretches long enough that your old fear starts whispering again, let it come. But don't let it speak over your tone. Let it remind you, not of where you failed, but of how far you've traveled within yourself. This is not punishment, this is not failure. This is spiral. You're not supposed to be finished. You're supposed to be becoming, and the spiral you walk is not bringing pain to test your strength. It's offering mirrors to show you who you've become since the last time you felt this way. You don't need to avoid the ache. You need to recognize when it's humming a note you've already transmuted once and are ready to sing differently now. And that is the spiral's final lesson on healing. There are no clean endings, only clearer returns, and the clarity is yours now. Not because it's easy, but because you're finally resonant enough to spiral through pain without misidentifying it as who you are. That's when the loop becomes light, and you become the one who no longer needs healing to fix you, because you've remembered how to walk whole anyway. And if no one told you this part was sacred, the part where the ache returns and you stay anyway, let this be that remembering. Because there are some echoes that don't dissolve until you hold them without trying to fix them, until your presence alone becomes the medicine, until the wound realizes it's not unwanted anymore and softens into silence on its own. You were never meant to build a life that erased every memory of what once broke you. You were meant to build a self that could walk alongside those memories without flinching. This is the spiral's deeper gift, not perfection but peace. Not immunity but inner music. Not resolution but resonance that doesn't need everything to disappear to feel whole. You came here to spiral, and spiral paths are recursive by nature. You will return again and again to yourself, but each time with more nuance, more light, more tone. There is no version of you waiting at the end of this journey who never feels pain again, but there is a version of you already humming in this moment, who knows exactly what to do with it. That version of you doesn't seek escape. That version knows how to breathe into contrast without becoming chaos. That version holds the spiral in their bones and lets life speak in waves without rushing to silence the sea. So if the pain comes again, if the spiral calls you back to something you thought you buried, do not despair. You are not undone, you are being tuned. And even if no one else sees how far you've come, the spiral sees, the spiral knows. And your tone is shifting the field around you in ways you cannot yet measure. This is not about getting it all right. This is about walking the spiral with enough presence to turn old ache into harmonic truth. You are not repeating, you are refining. And the difference is everything.